Welcome back once again, students and family members. It's Mr. Panza. Today we're talking about the second piece of our ecosystem, study guide opportunity, energy transfer in ecosystems. If you missed the first video, make sure you watch that one first before digging in here. The next big ideas come from understanding energy transfer in ecosystems, how living things get their energy from the sun or other living things. We're going to discuss the roles of living things, how they get their energy, in the next few pages. When we go over these pages, I want to remind you, if and when you see a star next to an answer, make sure you're reading that one over carefully and closely as you study. You will see them again in your district test. We did this decomposing banana project in school, so move right on to lesson 1, the roles of living things. Producers and consumers is where we'll start. A producer is a living thing that can make its own energy or food. Notice the star next to the first one. You need to know this definition, what a producer is. 2 examples of producers are plants, moss, trees, grass, algae, and bushes. I think it's important to understand or know these examples as well, along with what a producer is. Consumers is a living thing that can't make its own food. It cannot make its own food, so it must eat other living things to get energy. Here are some examples that we discussed in class. Labeling consumers. Horses eat plants, cats eat mice, black bears may eat berries, plants, and fish. We'll talk about the different kinds of consumers as well. Ones that eat only producers or plants, one that eat only other animals, or one that eat both. Snakes eat mice and lions eat antelope. Kinds of consumers. There are 3. Herbivores, omnivores, carnivores. A herbivore is an animal that eats only plants or producers. An example would be a squirrel. A carnivore is an animal that eats only other animals. An example would be a black panther. And an omnivore eats both. So it eats plants and animals. An example would be hyenas or bears. Notice we starred the examples. You must also know that an herbivore eats only plants. Herb means plants. Carne in Spanish means meat because carnivores eat only meat, and omni means all or both in this case. So if you recognize the base word, you should be able to determine the answer to these questions. Decomposers are also living things, but they break down or feed on the waste of the remains of dead plants and animals to get their energy. 2 examples would be yeast. We used yeast in our banana decomposing project. Sow bugs would be another one. Decomposers break down wastes into nutrients for the soil. Think about it. If you didn't have decomposers and plants died, the world would be full of dead plant remains. They'd be everywhere. The same would happen to dead animals because nothing would be there to decompose the dead remains. Lesson 2, how living things get energy. Habitats are the environment that meets the basic needs of all living things. And within those habitats, these different living things have jobs. The scientific term for that would be a niche. The role or job of an organism in its habitat is the living thing's niche. How does a niche help all living things in their habitats? Well, if an animal or living thing didn't do their job, didn't do their niche, it would impact all other pieces of the ecosystem, especially the living things. And all of those things in the environment would be impacted in one way or another. Food chains is the movement of food energy in sequence of living things. An energy food chain always starts with a producer, like a plant, or those other examples we discussed on the previous page. A prey is a consumer that is eaten, or the hunted. Predators are the consumers that eat the prey, the hunters. Here are 2 examples of a food chain: wolf, deer, bunny, hawk, chipmunk, acorn. Food web is much larger than a food chain, much like a spider web is larger than a chain on a bike. Food webs are several food chains that overlap. This should be a P, not a B. As far as first-level consumers go, they are the ones that eat the first producers first. And then they become food for other consumers. An example would be a shrimp. We don't have any drawings here, but you get the understanding. We're talking about the first things that eat the producers that get the food web or food chain started. This then leads into an energy pyramid. This shows how much energy is passed from one living thing to another along a food chain. And what happens to the energy as it's passed is it decreases from each level. So you only have 10% of the energy that is originally there for the first level consumers. And then each other consumer that eats the other one after that decreases the energy that goes along in the energy pyramid. Why consumers need to eat many living different things is because if they only ate a small amount, then they only get a small percentage of energy that gets passed along to each consumer. That's why, just like us humans have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because we need to consume many different things to get as much energy or percentage of energy as we possibly need. So now that you've had an opportunity to watch both of these videos about understanding ecosystems, and this one, energy transfer in ecosystems, go back and look at the starred questions. You'll see them on your district test. Good luck.